everyone. Welcome to the kitchen from the Victorian House Museum. My name is Sloan, and today we are filming the second video in our series, Everybody Ought to Have a Maid, which is all about servants in the Cedar Valley. And so we have been doing a series of videos showcasing recipes that are taken from our archived Victorian era cookbooks here at the Victorian House Museum, and really applying them to everyday life now, or being able to pull these recipes off the shelf and incorporate them into your weekly meal plan. So we've already filmed a recipe about apple puff pudding, which was absolutely delicious. It was so good. So if you haven't viewed that video, we encourage you to go back and view that one. But today, since we are in June, we're in the summer months, we are switching gears and we are really focusing on our produce today, because back when June would occur in the Victorian house kitchen, we would really be reliant heavily on our vegetable garden outside. It was pretty typical for households to have a large garden where they would source a lot of their food. So in the summer months, when it's warm and when we have that produce coming in, we really want to take advantage of that and have a fresher diet. So we do switch gears at that point in the calendar year. Today we're going to be making two recipes together. These could either be main dishes for a lunch, or they could be an accompaniment for a dinner. So we are going to be making a summer salad, and that recipe can be found, like I said, in our archived cookbooks. We are also going to be making together a cucumber salad. So if you were going to serve these for a dinner, you could serve them with a protein or a poultry. But like I said, if this was for a luncheon or some type of midday meal, you could certainly serve these as they are. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So we are going to start off first with building our summer salad. We are going to have two different components to this. First, we're going to build together our produce and build that base of our salad. And then on top of that, we are going to make a really great but light summer salad dressing to go with this. So we'll show you how to make it. Okay, so the first step to building our summer salad is going to be really building that base. So here I have got a pretty nice head of red leaf lettuce. This recipe does call for lettuce, it calls for watercress. If you've got some mustard leaves, those are really great to incorporate as well. Today we're just going to be building with our red leaf lettuce, but if you have those other ingredients on hand, feel free to add them in, because you're only going to be building more and more of that flavor. So I'm just going to cut off a portion of my lettuce head. Now, depending on the size of your family or who you'll be serving, you might need more lettuce than this, you might need less. You can certainly size this down and make an individual portion, or you can do what I like to do, which is make a really big salad at the beginning of the week, and then you can portion that out throughout the week as life goes on. But we're going to use this as the base. You want something that's going to be pretty hearty, because we're going to be building in some different components to this that can kind of get tucked into those lettuce leaves. And then the dressing that we're going to be making is more of a vinaigrette. So you want a leaf that can kind of hold up to that. And I think red leaf lettuce is pretty perfect for that. So you want something that's a little bit heartier. Now what we're going to do, we can move this off to the side. We're just going to be cutting these into bite-sized chunks. Now, like I've said in my previous video, I'm not a professional chef, so some of my knife cuts may not be on professional level, but this is okay, because these recipes are really meant to be pulled off the shelf. Like I said, they've been in our archives for a long time, and we want them to be applicable to your everyday life now. So if you're at home and you want to try any of these recipes, you can certainly feel free to give these a go, and it doesn't matter what cooking ability you're at, these recipes are for everybody. Now, a summer salad could really be switched up to include any ingredients that you have on hand. This one specifically incorporates lettuce. Like I said, it does have some watercress, some mustard leaves. We are also adding in some cucumber, some onion. I've got some radishes for just a little bit of spice and some peppery flavor. We've got some hard-boiled eggs that we're going to add in here. But if you've got, for example, other produce that looks really ripe at the time you're making the salad and it sounds like it'd be great to add in, feel free to add in that produce, or especially if you keep an herb garden at home, You could either choose to incorporate your herbs into the salad itself, or you could add it into the dressing. The dressing that we're going to be making is on the lighter side. It's kind of simple, still great in flavor, but it could absolutely benefit from some herbs. So feel free to add those in if you do have that. Really, like I said, it's all about using the produce that you have on hand, because in the summer months, that's really its time to shine. And in the Victorian era, it wasn't like now where we can pretty much count on finding strawberries at the store all throughout the year, even though different times they're in much better season. In the Victorian era, you really were bound by what was in season locally or what you could grow yourself. And so your menu throughout the year would definitely change along with what you could have. So when we made our apple puff pudding, having apples on hand was pretty typical from a fall harvest. They would keep really well in a cellar. You could pull them out when you needed them because you didn't have a lot of fresh produce that you would grow in the summer. But now that summer's here and we're in June, we have the ability to incorporate a lot more. And if I were going to incorporate anything, I think I would incorporate more herbs. I think herbs are always great in a salad. And if you also love herbs, definitely make sure to check out the Victorian House's annual herb celebration. We're hosting one again in September, on September 9th, so 9/9, you can mark your calendars. But that's really a time for us to, first of all, come together and talk about the benefits of herbs, how you can use herbs in your cooking, how versatile herbs are, and you can even take a peek at the really wonderful herb garden that we keep at the Victorian House every year. We try to have a good variety of herbs on hand. If you've ever walked by in the summer, you may have noticed that toward the back part of the house. And we have some great volunteers that help keep that going for us. So feel free to check that out. But last year's event was amazing. It was a really wonderful day. We had pretty much a full house. So if you're interested in that, make sure to look for those details on our social media or on our website, and make sure to sign up before the spots fill up. All right, we are almost done chopping our lettuce. I can't chop as fast as I normally do when I'm talking, but that's okay. It's always fun to talk in the kitchen. So like I said, this lettuce is going to act as our base. And then from there, we're going to build the flavor on top of it. So after I get all of my lettuce into a bowl, and now you can use a casual bowl like I'm using here. I've just got a simple glass bowl. In the Victorian era, if this was being served for a family or a group, maybe it was a luncheon, it would probably be presented in a much better bowl, or even presented on a platter where it could be served more appropriately. But today, since it's just us, we're going to go ahead and use our glass bowl here. All right, so we've got our lettuce in here. We're just going to scoop that off to the side. I have also pre-chopped some onions. So onions along with my radish are going to give it some really great peppery, spicy flavor. I've got about half a white onion. You certainly don't have to use all of this. I have it cut into pretty thin slices so that these can tuck in, but I'm just going to cut these down so they're a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to spread those along my salad. Now once we are at the end and we've made our dressing, we're going to toss everything together, and so this will become incorporated. It won't stay on just the top layer, but we're going to go ahead and add in some onion here. Onions are a great food that keeps on hand for a while, especially in a root cellar. So that's a food that could be incorporated not only into fresh dishes, but also into stews. You might use it to kind of just punch up some soups, maybe a baked dish like a chicken or a poultry. So you can use it for a number of different dishes, but it does keep really well, especially in the Victorian era. Now I have a cucumber here, and we are going to be making cucumber salad together, but I'm also going to take one of these cucumbers and we're going to use it to put some in our salad as well. Cucumbers go great with vinaigrette. And this will bring a lightness to the salad, but also because cucumbers are heartier, they're really crunchy, it's going to give us some good crunch too. You can cut these however you like. I personally really love chunks of cucumber, but if you like slices and you want them to be sliced thin, you can absolutely put this together however you'd like. But I'm going to go ahead and just cut some chunks of cucumber, put these all over my salad. Now, even though I'm standing in front of this really large stove here, which is such a showpiece in the Victorian kitchen, this stove was used pretty sparingly typically in the summer months, and that's because stoves get really hot. And so typically in the winter, it would be very common for the servants to be baking bread. Typically you're going to eat your heartier meals like your stews or your poultry at that point. But in the summer, since the stove gets really hot, there wasn't air conditioning like we have now, you wanted to keep the home as cool as possible. So even though not every family did this, it was really common for families to have a summer kitchen instead. And if you've ever been at the Victorian home, you'll notice that when you walk into the front door, you're in kind of what would have been the side of the house, and the kitchen is right behind. But then we have our addition where we have our rotating exhibits. That's typically where it leads into the classroom. We've got some seasonal things going on. That actually was an addition, and it originally would have been a green space by the side of the house. So if this family were to have a garden, it would have been in that area where we have our addition today. But if they had a garden, that would have been one place to get their produce. They would have been growing a lot at that time for the family to help feed into their meals. And if they had a summer kitchen, that would have helped quite a bit. Typically the stoves that they had on hand could be deassembled and reassembled outside. So if you wanted to have more of an outdoor kitchen and keep things a little bit cooler in the home, some families had that option. So today we're not doing any baking. We're keeping our home cool. We're using our fresh seasonal produce. I've got some radishes here. I'm just putting really thin slices of these all around the top of my salad. And I've got about 5 radishes here. These are pretty small, so if you have larger radishes, you could certainly use less. If you really love radish, you can add in as much as you want. The last component that we're going to add in today is going to be some hard-boiled eggs. We're going to add a little bit of protein and a little bit of creaminess into this salad. So far we've had some crunchy vegetables, we've had some different flavors. We want some creaminess to go in, especially since we're going to have our vinaigrette. So I've got 3 hard-boiled eggs. I'm just going to slice these up and put them all around my salad. Now, if you're interested in visiting the Victorian house more, or if you've ever traveled to visit us and you really love being in the Victorian house, if you're passionate about history, make sure to check out all of our volunteer opportunities. We are always looking for volunteer hosts. That's one of the things that I do. So I am a member of the Victorian House Council. So I help to talk through some of our programming, and I'm here to just offer general support. But I'm also a volunteer host on the weekends. And so we have multiple shift opportunities. It's a really great way to connect with people from the public. We do generate or draw in a lot of visitors from all over the Midwest, but even different parts of the world. So we are really fortunate in Cedar Falls to have great museums. So if you are passionate about meeting people, if you love history, if you love the Victorian house, definitely make sure to stop in and chat with us because we are always looking for new hosts. Okay, so we have built the base of our salad. This looks so pretty. We've got all these different layers of flavor. Like I said, we are going to toss this so that everything gets incorporated together. But before we do that, we are going to make our dressing. So we are going to reset our table and come back together to make our vinaigrette. Okay, so we have made our hearty salad over here. Let's make the vinaigrette together. So for this, we only need a few simple ingredients, which is why I said if you have herbs, you could definitely incorporate them into the vinaigrette because it would definitely lend itself to some more flavor. But we're going to use oil, we're going to use vinegar, we've got some mustard, some salt, some pepper, and then some sugar. You can use any salad oil that you like, so if you have one on hand that you like to use, whether it be canola oil, olive oil, anything like that, that would be great for this recipe. I'm using white wine vinegar. You could certainly use regular white distilled vinegar. It's going to be okay. So whatever vinegar you have on hand, even if it were to be a red wine vinegar or a balsamic, if you wanted to switch things up, that would work too. Well, we're going to go ahead and start by putting some oil into our measuring cup. We're going to measure out about 1/2 cup of oil. Now, depending on the size of your salad, you may not need as much oil or as much dressing in general as we're making. However, if you make too much dressing, it should keep in the refrigerator just fine. If your oil solidifies, just make sure to leave your dressing out at room temperature for a little while for it to come back down, and then you can dress whatever salad you have for the day. So to our oil, what I'm going to do is add in about 1/2 to 3/4 cup of vinegar. So we're going to have a nice balance here. Now we're going to add the flavor. So we've got our oil and vinegar. We're going to add about 1 teaspoon of sugar, just to give it a little bit of sweetness here. To that, we're going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of pepper and salt. So I've got my salt here. And add some salt. I use kosher salt. You can use any salt that you like. We've got black pepper. And then we're going to use mustard. I'm using Dijon because that's what I had on hand. You can use any mustard that you like. So if you like stone ground, if you like plain regular mustard, you can certainly use that. But we're going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of mustard. This is going to help emulsify the dressing. So it's going to help everything come together. And after all of your ingredients are in your measuring cup, I'm just going to take a fork and whisk it together. You can also use just a mini whisk if you've got that, but we're going to go ahead and incorporate everything together. Another good tool to have on hand is just a salad dressing shaker. So if you've got that with the mustard, it'll really help to emulsify and incorporate everything together. Give it a good whisk. And then from there, once it's whisked, you can go ahead and dress over the top of your salad. All right, so you can see I've got a little bit of extra dressing. That's completely fine. I can save it for my next salad. Or if you find that after you toss this together, it's not enough dressing, you can always add more. But you want to go slow as you incorporate it because you don't want your salad to be overdressed. But there you have it. This is our regular summer salad recipe taken from our archived cookbook. So along with this, we've got one more recipe that we're going to make today, and that is cucumber salad. So we're going to go ahead and reset, and we'll get ready to make that recipe. Okay, so after we've made our summer salad together, we're going to make a cucumber salad. In our recipe book, this was called a raw cucumber salad. So this is one that you could either serve immediately after we put everything together, or you could allow it to sit in a jar and marinate for a little bit of time to allow some of those flavors to compose. But what we're going to do is pull together just a few ingredients to make this salad. We, of course, need our cucumbers. I have a cucumber here that I've peeled, and I've also cut off the ends. This is what we're going to go ahead and slice. Now you can go ahead and slice into however thick slices you want. If you want really thinly sliced cucumbers, you can slice it that way. Or if you want thicker cucumbers, you can also slice them a little bit on the thick side. Mine are maybe like 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick. So kind of middle of the road here. And after we get these sliced, we're going to add them to our glass bowl. Cucumber salad is something that's even pretty common in the Midwest. So it's a recipe that has stood the test of time. And if you ever do go into our archived cookbooks, you'll notice that they even talk about proper ways to harvest and to keep your cucumbers as fresh as possible. So cucumber was one in the cookbook that they mentioned not to harvest too long before you are ready to prepare it or ready to serve it, because few vegetables are worse when they're long gathered or when they're harvested a long time before you plan to eat them, because they start to shrivel and they lose that crispness that they have. So I've got my cucumber all sliced, it's peeled. I'm going to add this to my bowl. Now this recipe comes together pretty simply. Our recipe does say that for flavor, if you'd like to add some raw onion slices in with the cucumbers in the bowl, you're absolutely welcome to do that. But they make it clear that it's not necessarily to eat the onions, it's only to allow the flavor for the salad. So for today, we're going to leave our onions out, but if you have extra after making your salad, you could certainly add in that extra raw onion to your cucumber salad. So we've got this in the bowl. Now from here, we are going to season with a little salt and pepper. So I'm just going to give a little sprinkling. This is something that you can do to taste. So if you prefer to have a little bit saltier cucumber salad, you can certainly do that. You can also tone down the salt and the pepper if you don't necessarily want it to be as seasoned. I added in about half a teaspoon because we are going to be adding some liquid, so that's all going to dissolve. I'm going to add in maybe about a fourth of a teaspoon of black pepper. Just sprinkle that all over. And then from here, we are going to add vinegar to our bowl, just enough to cover. The recipe didn't necessarily say a particular measurement for vinegar, so if you are making cucumber salad for a group, you would obviously want to add in enough where you just have a covering over your cucumbers. If you're doing like I am today, where maybe this is a serving for 1 or 2 people, you don't need as much vinegar. I'm using regular white distilled vinegar. If you want to use a better vinegar, feel free to do so. I don't recommend using a balsamic, but if you have a white vinegar or even like a white wine vinegar, that may be a better vinegar to use here. So we're just going to add a little bit over the top, and we're just going to let this sit. Now, this is a raw salad, so in the recipe, this could technically be served as is. You maybe want to stir together your cucumber salad just to allow all those flavors to kind of mix together. You've got your salt and your pepper in there, so you want that to mix in. You could either put this in a jar and allow this to sit for a while and allow that vinegar to really absorb into the cucumbers and give that flavor, especially if you have onions. Or you could go ahead and serve this outside. And they simply would pick the cucumbers out, kind of like we do when we pick pickle slices out of the jar. You wouldn't necessarily eat the vinegar liquid or the brine, but you could grab the cucumbers and serve them alongside of your salad and any other dishes that you're serving that day. So these are 2 summertime recipes taken from our archived Victorian era cookbooks. Perfect for the summer months where we're really, again, trying to highlight that produce that we've got abundant in our garden. But if you are interested in this recipe or the apple puff pudding recipe that we've already filmed on, feel free to contact us at the Victorian house or stop in. We'd love to show you. And we do have one more recipe that we're going to film for you, and that's going to be later this year. We're going to be making egg biscuits with rosemary. So if you're interested in that recipe, feel free to tune in at that point. But thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoy.